In the waters of New York Harbor stands a colossal figure holding a torch against the sky. Millions recognize her instantly. But few know the dramatic story behind her creation. A story born from revolution, friendship, and an impossible dream. Before she welcomed immigrants and inspired nations, the Statue of Liberty was only an audacious idea, one that many believed could never be built. Yet a group of dreamers in France believed this monument could change the world forever. The year was 1865. France had watched the United States survive a brutal civil war. To many French intellectuals, America represented something powerful, a nation built on the radical promise of liberty and democracy. Among those inspired was a passionate sculptor named Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. He imagined something extraordinary, a colossal statue rising beside the Atlantic, greeting the world with a single message: freedom. Bartholdi's vision was bold beyond imagination. A woman representing liberty would stand taller than any statue of the modern age, holding a blazing torch high above the ocean horizon. But building such a giant seemed nearly impossible. Yet the statue would represent more than art. It would symbolize friendship between France and the United States, two nations linked by revolutionary ideals. But turning this dream into reality would soon prove far harder than anyone expected. Designing a statue this enormous required engineering never attempted before. Copper sheets would form the outer skin, but hidden beneath them needed to be a skeleton strong enough to survive storms, wind, and time itself. The challenge led Bartholdi to a brilliant engineer, Gustave Eiffel, the man who would later build the famous Eiffel Tower. His revolutionary iron framework would allow the statue to sway gently with powerful harbor winds. As the statue slowly took shape in Paris, another problem emerged. France agreed to build the statue, but America had to construct the pedestal, and raising the enormous funds needed would become a battle of its own. Across the Atlantic, fundraising stalled. Many Americans questioned the project. Why spend money on a giant statue? For a moment, the dream of liberty seemed ready to collapse before it ever reached America. Then, a newspaper publisher changed everything. Joseph Pulitzer launched a massive public campaign, urging ordinary citizens to donate whatever they could, even a few cents, to help build liberty's pedestal. Thousands responded. Children, workers, immigrants, people from every corner of America sent coins and small donations. Together, they saved the project. And if you enjoy discovering powerful hidden history, consider subscribing for more stories like this. By 1885, the statue stood complete in Paris, towering, magnificent, and impossible to ignore. But there was one final obstacle. The entire monument had to cross the Atlantic Ocean, packed into hundreds of pieces, and the journey would be dangerous. Carefully dismantled into more than 300 sections, the statue was packed into massive crates. In the summer of 1885, a French ship carried liberty across the stormy Atlantic toward her new home in America. After weeks at sea, the ship entered New York Harbor. Crowds gathered along the shoreline as the crates arrived. Few could imagine that these wooden boxes contained the future symbol of American freedom. On a small island in the harbor, workers began the monumental task of reassembling the statue piece by piece atop the newly completed pedestal on Liberty Island. What rose from the scaffolding would soon astonish the world. For months, engineers and laborers worked high above the harbor winds, bolting copper sheets onto the iron skeleton designed by Gustave Eiffel. Slowly, Liberty's face, crown, and torch emerged against the skyline. Then came the day the world had been waiting for. October 28, 1886. Thousands gathered across New York Harbor for the grand unveiling of the Statue of Liberty. What happened next would become history. As the veil dropped, the towering figure of liberty appeared before cheering crowds. Cannons fired. Ships sounded their horns. For the first time, the giant torch shone above the harbor skyline. Standing over 300 feet above the water, Liberty instantly became one of the tallest monuments on Earth. But her greatest role had not yet begun. Soon, she would greet millions searching for a new life. In the decades that followed, ships filled with immigrants sailed past Liberty toward nearby Ellis Island. For many exhausted travelers, the first sight of her torch meant hope, safety, and the promise of a new beginning. Families from across Europe and beyond watched the statue rise through the harbor fog. To them, Liberty was more than metal and stone. She was the first sign that their long, uncertain journey had finally ended. Over time, the statue became more than a monument to friendship between France and the United States. She became a global symbol of freedom, democracy, and the enduring human hope for liberty. Today, the torch of the Statue of Liberty still shines above New York Harbor, but its message raises a timeless question. In a world still struggling for freedom, what does liberty truly mean to us today?